Okay. Like I told you, I do have a meeting that I'm going to be going to, but I did want to just mention what was at the bottom of this attachment that I put in on Canvas. And basically, what we have here is just kind of a simplified drawing of the logistics process. Okay. I think the one of the examples that I sometimes use is some sort of a product. I mean, maybe we would talk about something like a can of corn. Okay, if you were talking about a can of corn, you would have obviously raw materials that you would need in order to make the can of corn. You would need corn, you would need a can, you would need labeling, and these are all considered raw materials. Okay, there might be a company that makes the label, a company that makes the cans, a company a farmer that grows the corn. Okay, and essentially what happens is that let's see if I can. There we go. One of the things that I don't know if this is annoying or not, but I'm going to use it, so hopefully it won't be too bad. But basically, these are all raw materials. From the raw materials, they sell these products to companies that are actually going to put the can of corn together. Okay, so they'll accumulate these raw materials in their warehouses. They will then move the corn, the labels, the cans to the factory where it gets placed. Okay, um, at that point, you've got a finished product here all of a sudden. Okay, and where does a can of corn go? Okay, well, a can of corn is ultimately going to end up on a store shelf, but it doesn't oftentimes move directly from the factory. It doesn't come rolling off the line and then immediately get shipped to your local Kroger, your Walmart Supercenter, your Costco, your Sam's Club, your Remke, your Biggs. It's not going to probably happen like that, although more and more it's starting to sometimes evolve like that. So basically, they create the can of corn. It might come in cases of 12. And this factory is going to be shipping large quantities of these cans of corn to a store's distribution center. Walmart has distribution centers, Costco has distribution centers, Kroger has distribution centers, Remke. I mean, they've all got distribution centers, and it is from there that the stores will actually start to break it down into smaller quantities to send to the actual place where a consumer would end up going. So, factory then sends it to the distribution center. Okay, and at this point, the distribution center can do a couple of things. If we were talking about something maybe other than corn, although, like I said, this may be changing because you can, after I looked this morning, you can order something on walmart.com, a can of corn, and actually get it sent directly to you. Okay, it could be sent to the end user or the consumer. Okay, that's not very common, and maybe that's a growing thing, but it's, for at least right now, it's not a common way to get a can of corn. Okay, so it's at this distribution center for your Costco, your Walmart, your Kroger. And at that point, they need to figure out, what are we going to do with this? We've got this stuff. We ordered it. We know we're going to send it to the store. Sometimes local stores like Remke, oftentimes what they do is they will send their corn directly to the store, okay, where it'll end up on a shelf. But that's mainly oftentimes just for smaller types of stores. Although Remke is not a small store by any means, it's got more than a few locations here in northern Kentucky and Ohio. However, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a very large store chain. So, Remke, they might send it directly from the distribution center to the store. Okay. But if we're talking about a larger company, such as a Walmart, such as a Sam's Club, such as a Kroger, they will oftentimes have very large distribution centers and then send it to smaller regional distribution centers, because oftentimes these stores are buying in very large quantities, and they will send a small bit to a regional distribution center that will ship to the stores eventually, maybe in southern Ohio. They might then send something to northern Ohio. They might then send something to Tennessee. Okay. I mean, lots of large companies have big distribution centers, and then they have regional distribution centers or store distribution centers. Okay. So if it was a smaller company like Remke, boom, it automatically goes directly to the store from the distribution center. At that point, the Remke would send it, or they would have it on the store shelf, and the end user or the consumer would grab it off the shelf and put it in their cart and go off to checkout, and then all of a sudden our logistics chain is done. Okay. But going back up here, if this is a large distribution or a large company like Walmart, Walmart will then send it to a smaller, more localized distribution center. And at that point, they then send it. I mean, they might service 20 or 30 different Walmart stores, and that's what they're going to do. They then take smaller quantities than what they originally received in from this distribution center, and then they send maybe a case of corn to this particular store that you could actually see, or that you could actually go to locally. Maybe it's, I don't know where there's Kroger's at. I mean, they're all over the darn place. But my local Kroger that I would probably go to would be in Fort Mitchell, although I know there's one in Latonia that I would sometimes go to. Other times, I know there's a big one out in Boone County in Hebron. So the store distribution center or the smaller one will send it to the store, and then at that point the individual consumer can walk up to the store shelf and then be able to pick up the can of corn, throw it in the cart, and head off to the cash register. Okay, this is a very simplistic type of um, logistics chain here, but what I will tell you is this is quite common. Logistics is just covering this entire diagram that I made here. Okay, it's definitely everywhere where you see a blue arrow, because oftentimes that is going to be something that has to do with transportation. There's transportation here from the raw material manufacturer to the company that makes the corn. It then might get moved across the other side of a really big building, or it might put it on another truck and send it to a factory if they've got a couple of them. There's definitely transportation here. There's transportation here. There's transportation here. Okay. And there's lots of people behind the scenes trying to get our exciting can of corn from here to the end user here, here, and here. Okay. It's definitely a chain that, I mean, periodically you can see how it might skip from one to the other if it was a smaller type of store, kind of like the way we talked about Remke being a smaller type of store. But these really big ones oftentimes are having regional distribution centers. So, where does that leave us? There's logistics, as I said, all over the place in this diagram. Okay. But you need to be thinking about also logistics is involved with individuals that are working at this factory that then have to be taking orders for the corn, okay, lining up transportation for the corn, individuals that have to keep track of the corn. Okay, I mean, there's expiration dates. You want to send out the oldest stuff first, so you don't have old corn sitting around in cans. Okay, so there's people here that take care of all that. Then more logistics happens here at the distribution center. If it's a big store, Walmart will know that I need to send 260 cases of corn. That's 12 packs of corn. 260 12 packs of corn is going to get sent to one of our regional distribution centers for all of the people that are in, let's just say, northern Kentucky. I mean, Walmart has a distribution center just south of us here in northern Kentucky that services Lexington. It services Ohio, southern Ohio. It services northern Kentucky. And these are all things that would be serviced by this one regional or store distribution center. Okay? So here we are at the store distribution center or the distribution center. Either one of these, there are people inside of it moving product around, maybe temporarily storing it. So you've got to keep track of it. You've got to move it around. And then ultimately comes the time where the stores way down here at your local Walmart might say, hey, we're running out of a lot of corn here. We need it. So they're going to say, you need to send us some corn. Okay. And then all of a sudden, these people say, okay, we've got enough to fill that order. We're sending you some cans of corn, the next possible truck that we send out of here. And then it would just go right back. However, if this regional or store distribution center starts to get low on corn, they're going to bubble it back up to the distribution center, and they will then send a massive load of cans of corn to the regional distribution center, or at least enough to get them through maybe a week's worth of time. Okay, so you've got larger quantities of things at the distribution center than the store or regional distribution center. You've got smaller quantities, and then you go down here to the actual Walmart, and then you've got individuals that are then you've got essentially how much can oftentimes just fit on a shelf. I mean, a lot of these stores don't have storage areas where they are storing lots of food in the back. I mean, it's pretty much on the shelf or it's not there. So all along the way, I mean, there are people that are monitoring supplies of what's down here at the store, because if they don't have the can of corn, the end user or the consumer can't walk to the shelf, pick it up, and be on their merry way. And Walmart, we'll just use as the example, would be making that money. Okay. However, you go back up the food chain here, and we see the regional distribution center. All the while, there are individuals that are making decisions on how much to send along these particular in these shipments that go back and forth, or pardon me, they go one way to the actual store. Okay. So, I mean, all along the way, you've got people making decisions. You've got people moving product around. You've got people loading trucks. You've got people rounding up trucks. You've got lots and lots of people behind the scenes other than the truck driver, the person loading the truck, the person offloading the truck. I mean, at the store, they've got to have individuals that are ready to unload the truck when it gets there. These people have to communicate, yes, this truck is going to be here. We're expecting it to be gone in 30 minutes. I mean, there's all sorts of things and all sorts of people that are in constant communication just to get something as boring as a can of corn to the store shelf. Also, you, the end consumer, can walk up and pay, I don't know, $2 for $1, or you might get a 75-cent can of corn or a 99-cent can of corn. Okay. And then your Walmart store might make 10, 15 cents off of that can of corn. Okay. So, I mean, logistics, it's all over the place. I mean, you can definitely see what would actually be going on if we were talking about different types of commodities. I mean, if we were talking about telephones and we talk about it having to cross an ocean, it might have to be on a boat for a while. It might additionally hop on an airplane at certain times. If I mean, there's just all sorts of variables that come into play, and different types of products have different routes of distribution, different modes of distribution, and different speeds of different distribution. I mean, probably somebody who was sending out cans of corn would probably be going on a slower route as opposed to individuals that would be dealing with more expensive things like telephones or speakers or stereos or watches. Okay. All of these movements, they do take time. Okay. And it doesn't really cost a lot of money to sit on a whole bunch of inventory of corn. However, it does cost an awful lot of money to be sitting on a whole bunch of phones that are anywhere other than somewhere that these end users can say, I want it. I'm going to pick that phone up and I'm going to take it to the register, okay, or something along those lines, okay? So we're going to be talking about a lot of things and how distribution and logistics and various modes of things get moved around the United States. Because, I mean, I think I might have mentioned this to you yesterday. I mean, during parts of March and April, I hate to say it, you could theoretically be walking into a local Kroger or a local Walmart and notice that there were a lot of things that were out of stock. And those were all lost sales that individuals had, that were all related to the COVID, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. And those were all potential lost sales. And why was that? It's because maybe there were people that were absent here, or maybe they were absent here and they couldn't get it packaged and send it here and send it here. Okay. I mean, there's just all sorts of variables along the way. But these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I think that's where I will leave it be. So, with that being said, I'm going to go off to my meeting, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Please make note. Well, yeah, just I'll leave that be. Okay. So have a good one. Bye.